Happy Monday.
Is that what that's called? Happy? How's your mom?
She's doing good. Uh she banged her knee up pretty bad, so they found out that she also tore her ACL.
Oh no.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah, so it's just a pain in the ass to deal with at 63. So I was talking to her last night. I was like, Mom, I think you gotta have that reality check that um you need to go ahead and retire, even though you don't want to. Um, she gets a lot of joy out of dealing with the kids. She's a guidance counselor for DCPS.
oh,
And
okay.
so, she's doing the good work with those crazies
Yeah,
down there.
sure.
But I said, yeah, this is going to be like a 6 to 9 month recovery period.
Mhm.
And this is pending her having to get a knee replacement on the other knee. So I said, and in Hanover, we have like a 4-story townhome. So there's a lot of stairs. And I'm like, you and dad, have to think about what that looks like because this is not practical for the things that, as you guys are getting older. Um, so I was like, not to, I could be a bubble buster, but um, we just need to think practically and logically of what makes sense because this is not sustainable. To be, you can't go to work, leave work early after driving to DC for an hour, go into physical therapy. You got to put your health first. So,
Yeah.
it's part of getting older.
It's tough decisions. I mean,
Yeah.
not that much younger than your mom. So dealing with my mom's 84 and dealing with her, it's just been one step, continual steps of, my dad died 7 years ago.
Oh
And
man.
he and she was alone in the house. And my mom
Hmm.
and dad were inseparable. They did everything together. So it was a big adjustment for her. She powered through it, but then COVID hit, and she was just alone, just so
Hmm.
alone. So anyway, she ended up in independent living in an apartment in a facility. And my mom's a doer and loves people and active, and so she participated in everything.
Hmm.
From bingo. She called us. She said, "Yeah, I'm doing this thing, WII bowling."
A Wii, the Nintendo Wii.
She had no idea what it was. So funny. And so she would participate in every activity. And she lives in a small town, Pennsylvania, and so um, people she graduated from high school would move in, and then church members would move. So it's a great community for her. Now she's had to step into assisted living, and she's no longer able to really walk. So we got her one of those motorized scooter
Hmm.
things. She crashes into doors all the time and stuff like that. But it's just one step at a time. Um, to
Yeah, I don't have children yet, but
mhm.
I'm starting to see that um as you get older, like the the parental part of being a parent to your child, being a parent to your parents is a real thing.
It
And
is.
it's kind of hard to convince people that have been doing things right for 50, 60, 70 years that, hey, there's another way to
Yeah,
go about doing things.
yeah. Well, I still don't have children, and that has come and gone in my life. And so I just had nieces in town this weekend. And so that's who I'm relying on for my old age. Nieces and nephews, of which I have plenty. So anyway,
So yeah, everything's work. I mean, we're going back to the doctor tomorrow, so that's her first follow up, and
okay.
I think we'll be down like towards the Bethesda area. So I was gonna reach out to some of the team and see who was available after that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, very good email. It was something for me to think about and be, I'm fully prepared to talk about everything. And hopefully by the end of this call, there'll be some clarity for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
like you said, you're direct. So am I, as you can see.
mhm.
Put it out there
Yeah,
because there's no need to waste our time circling around each other. Let's just tell it like
yeah,
it is.
yeah. So let me go through the items one by one. The first thing you were
Mhm.
asking about was like vision and strategy. Um, so my main goal is to, within the next 12 months, to restore profitability to the company, meaning um, focusing on our core customers, previous customers, and figure out ways to develop high margin opportunities, which is to utilize our low cost product and sell it at a reasonable margin so that we could start to generate revenue to pay bills. So we can preserve shareholder dilution and not have any unnecessary equity issuances. I want to also build our company towards being a more profitable dividend paying company or an acquirable brand. Right now, I don't feel we are an acquirable brand. And I think maybe two raises ago, the last time I checked, I think we had a valuation that put our shares at like 64 cents at one point. But now I think we're down to 27 cents. And there are a few sets of clients I mean, investors who came in higher than our current valuation. So if we don't, like some of the things that have come across the table, whether they be Renaissance or Wahapta, some people might not make any money, and I don't think that's fair.
Mhm.
So I want, when I'm looking at acquisition, I think it should be a minimum of, a dollar, so some people can make at least, 20 or 30% on their money as opposed to losing money. Um, so, that's what I think when it comes to, all the couple of opportunities about possible reverse merger or asset sale, that doesn't help anybody. Um, and I haven't really been a fan of where we are from a dilution standpoint either. At one point, I owned 12% of this company, and now I think I own like 1.2% of the company. Um, but I understand we have to raise money and do certain things. Um, as far as like a growth plan, um, the first thing, like within the next 90 days, hold on one second. Let me pause. My dad is about to cook in the kitchen.
Okay,
Let me go
okay,
downstairs. Let me just go
okay,
into just
sure.
downstairs. Hold on. Yeah. I'm gonna get you dizzy.
I'm looking away.
Here we go. Okay. There we go. Um, yeah, so growth plan, like within the next 3 months, what I'm trying to do is conduct like a financial triage to really understand where the company is. Like since this stuff happened with change of management and board over the last 7 days, I've received like 12 to $14,000 in bills that nobody ever discussed, to include your expenses that were never paid. Um, we got like a $4,000 bill from Eric Dixon, and I had asked Eric Dixon on our last call, "Do we owe you any money?" And he was like, "No, not really." But then we got a bill for $4,000. Um, so doing just trying to renegotiate with vendors, contractors, and just cut non-core expenses because the bottom line is we don't really have any money.
We don't.
Yeah, and so the other thing like that I think that we've started to do is change or replace some of the you know there's no nice way of saying it, but the toxic leadership that we've had, and build like a performance culture. Like when we get into the discussion about your equity incentives, like I would love to hear your thoughts, but from the outside looking in, there's two schools of thought. It's either that we're rewarding people for not producing, or people were taking a pay cut with the expectation that they would get paid at some point through a liquidation or a sale. And I spoke to Nathaniel about that and said, Nathaniel, I honestly think that that creates poor culture because people are not earning what their value is, and they're only incentivized by dangling a carrot that something good will happen, but we don't have any control over that. So I definitely want to talk to you about that because like I didn't even know that you were a preferred shareholder. I don't know if it's because your ownership is in one of those LLCs that, that don't have your name on it, but things like that, I just don't, I haven't been privy to a lot of information. Um,
My name should be on the cap table. I put $25,000 of my own money in, and I have the paperwork. So
no, no, I'm not, so this is
no,
me.
I know, but
Yeah,
I'm surprised that it's not just there in the cap table. That
yeah. So like the way that the last cap table that we were given, it doesn't have the capital contribution. It has the common shares, but there's nothing there that shows you as a preferred shareholder. And I'm like, Angela's been around the block a couple of times. Like, if she's a preferred shareholder, it should be in the preferred shareholder section. Like,
Mhm.
why is it not there? Um, so things like that, like
Yeah.
just, and just it's frustrating because it's a lot of janitorial work that's being done, and I'd like to focus on some of the things that I'm really good at, which is
Hmm.
developing and bringing sales and marketing. Like I've already got some traction with that. I had a really positive call 30 minutes ago that went really well with the largest organic and backyard chicken um, publication in the country, and we have a follow-up call on Wednesday to do a joint marketing data share agreement so that we can market to all their farms potentially. So I'm trying to do my best, but it's just still peeling back the onion. Every time I peel it back, I start crying because it's more stuff.
No, I know.
Um, so yeah, so within 6 to 12 months, um, I want to for the next 6 to 12 months, I'd like to operate as lean as we can, and I'm going to put together like a rolling 12-month budget. And I think we really need to focus on automating some back office tasks, such as like
Mhm.
the way our data is organized. I'm still trying to understand. Like I know you guys shared the data folder with me, but then like go into the data folder to look at the data, and then it's like attached to like a Dropbox, excuse me, link that I don't that's either inaccessible or that we are unable to get into. So things like that. Just um, our purchase order system, like if you're the chief science officer and you're supposed to be focused on building out our corporate relationships, why are you having to deal with Microsoft Word invoicing for vendors? Like that doesn't make sense to me. So putting together like bringing our systems up to date. Like Zoho is a mess. I haven't even got a chance to look all the way through it, but automation is here, and we have to adapt to the fact that some of these minimum wage activities that you've been doing
Mhm.
can be done automatically.
Yep.
Um, the
Agree.
technology is here.
No, I agree, and I think that uh, well, it none of the leadership team, former leadership team, had, including myself, that sort of experience, and so to bring somebody in to help us do that was not possible with the funds situation. So it just became band-aid, 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 uh, which you're ripping these band-aids off and seeing a lot of ugly wounds
Mhm.
throughout. So yeah, I get it.
So yeah, so I want to like track our key metrics, like our cash runway. Um, I'm doing my best to maintain the employees as much as possible. Like I have no intention of reducing the staff. Like it's not in my roadmap. And I'm not saying that just to sound cute, but we need to figure out where our current staff is best utilized. And I see the value in the three of you guys when I'm talking about you, Taka, and Maria. But it's like, how do we make sure that the value is geared towards things that's going to bring in revenue so that we can all um, see some return on our investments and our time. You know what I mean? Like you're working for, like a quarter of your value. At some point, motivation is going to go out the window if it's not already there.
Yeah.
Um, and so checking out our gross margins, which, I've seen some documents that Nathaniel has shared. I have some questions about increasing those margins with what we have. And like, you're well aware, like next week, I'm going to be spending like 2 weeks in Florida unpacking all of that stuff and having those conversations again with people that were paying customers. And the thing about it is, as much as we've tried to get away from the farm to farm relationships and just going straight B2B and commercial, the most revenue that we've ever made was during the time when we were going hand to hand with the farms. Like I think there was like 1.2 or $1.4 million generated from between Sweet Life and Wish Farms. Like the revenue was decent and respectable.
Mhm.
Um, so it's like as much as it sucks to have to feel like we're doing a mom and pop's guerrilla marketing effort, that's what has worked. Whether it was because of relationships or not, that's true, but we were generating sales and I firmly believe until we get to a point where we can show we're generating revenue and sales, we don't have the ability um to get acquired or to increase, the value of our shares.
Mhm.
That right now we have a $12 million valuation from the last raise, and that's not going to go up. Even going into like the equity incentives. I believe from the paperwork that I read very thoroughly, if the valuation doesn't increase and hit a strike price, those equity shares that you guys own are not really worth it. They don't they're vested, but they're not worth anything.
Mhm.
And so it's very important for us to, in my opinion, to like we've tried this whole like raise a bunch of money, which even though it's not a lot, it's $8 million or whatever, but the mom and pop raising that's been done before is not going to work. And so if we want to get some significant money in here, we have to show the sales. I mean,
Mhm.
I was even taking a deep dive at like making sure that my statement about how licensing agreements work was correct, and it is like normally when we get into these licensing conversations, there's a due diligence check initially to see how liquid those potential licensing partners are. It could be a franchise for a fast food restaurant or a home service business. There's a liquidity check done initially. We've never done that. And that's why we keep getting in front of these people trying to buy us through an asset sale or high in the sky, put us on the Toronto Stock Exchange for acquisition. We have to get away from that.
Mhm.
And sales is the only thing that's going to fix that because, I mean, who would invest in the company if they looked at our current status? Nobody. And we get these opportunities of, oh, we want a partner, we want a license deal. Normally, a license deal, you should be paying some fee up front. Wahapta should have paid couple $100,000 to even get access to use our data to go create another brand. We gave that
Mhm.
all to them for free out of the in hopes of an opportunity coming, and that's just bad.
Mhm.
So I want to change that. I purposely don't want to. I purposely would like to. I'm not purposely. I specifically would like to focus on everything, fixing home and handling everything domestic before we deal with Canada and Japan. And I really want to lean to you to get your thoughts on that because that goes into your
Mhm.
fourth question about your role. And because I know you're dealing with a lot of these things and it takes up a lot of your time communicating with these potential folks that unfortunately they're not spending any money, which comes back to affect you, your pay and your shares. Um, so yeah, so like I believe that you have like really deep partnership channel knowledge, and I believe that you have um, relationships with a lot of our shareholders, because you were involved in that process. So I think like your role could include like some strategic advising on how to navigate those relationships that we've already established to maintain them. Um, I think that you would be a really good liaison between um, the preferred shareholders and the board and myself, like, providing some sense of like a communication channel to keep them updated because I don't, if I'm a voting shareholder and I don't get communicated to very often, I can imagine how the preferred shareholders and the common shareholders feel. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I would literally have to bluntly ask you, like, do you guys have other communications with the voting share with the common shareholders and preferred shareholders that we haven't been told because we only get talked to once a year.
Well, there's the newsletter that Nathaniel would put out monthly, changed it to quarterly at my urging because there nothing happens in a month in this
Hmm.
industry. And of course, that was kind of 50,000 foot view of what's going on in the company, but that's
Hmm.
basically it. Now, of course, there are a few of the larger shareholders, Buchanan and Nadal, of course, and he's been on the board, so he's gotten more communication than most. But some of the larger ones that I know Nathaniel talks to Nathaniel and Taka talk to some of them. Not me.
Hmm.
I have one buddy who invested in the company $100,000 that I'll actually see him Saturday, so can give him an update
Hmm.
on what's going on. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it.
So would you say that the information, so I'm trying to like work on my bluntness without sounding rude. Um, I feel that, but there's no other way to say it. I feel like the communication that is communicated to voting shareholders, the things that I've seen in the newsletter are, like you said, you were nice about calling it a a 50,000 foot view. But my way of saying it would be very watered down.
Mhm.
And I don't think people realize that we're not in a good situation right now. Um, and I don't know if that's ever been communicated to people.
No, I would 100% agree with you on that, and including the former board. Um, I always, I don't know what the reluctance was uh, with telling the board of directors that we're near death.
Hmm.
Um, it was communicated, with words like dire or crucial or crisis, but never dollars and cents. And I always felt like that was, less than what should have been said.
Hmm.
I also felt with not myself because I was aware, uh, but with Maria Paula and the guys in Florida that just tell them that we have $15,000 in the bank. You know, there's no when you're a little company like this, there's no reason to hold back on these things.
Hmm.
Everybody's in it together, and so yeah, I would agree that internally, externally, whatever, it's not um, it hasn't been as open a dialogue, and I just think that's a lack of experience from the communicator, um, reading books to figure out what to do, not real life experience. Um,
Yeah.
so, because we all know that books are the ideal scenario, right?
Hmm.
If you read a book, it's like, oh, if everything is exactly as such and as so, you do this. But they're never as such and as so. There's complications. And so you have to be able to have judgment to help uh, deal with those complications and how you communicate inside of that situation.
Let me ask you one question. I know that this was supposed to be me explaining some things to you, but the environment that the three of you guys as the officers of the company were in over the last 4 or 5 years, was there an environment to be open and honest with each other, or was it more so like you had to just do what you had to do to keep the lights on and the agenda moving? Because you don't really come off as a person that is comfortable biting your tongue. And
Yeah.
um and even when you're talking to me, it's like, oh, you're giving me really good information and feedback, but then you're like, oh shit, I wasn't supposed to say that. And it's like, no, like the truth is the truth. And it's like sometimes it doesn't sound good, but it's useful information to be able to move forward. Like we cannot move forward in any act. Like I think we have maybe $90,000 in the account right now, and with a that we received money from a potential. I mean, I had to correct Taka. He's telling me like, oh, our licensing partner in Japan. I'm like, they're not our licensing partner. They haven't signed anything. Um, so why are you calling them a licensing partner? And he's like, Ralph, he sent me 5 emails about how important it is for him to get $1,000 to go to Japan. And then this morning it comes to, oh, I don't need 1,000 because I got to go home to see my sick dad. So I only need $482. And it's just like, I don't feel like he reads the room properly. It's like, do you not just realize a week ago you took $10,000 out of the account without telling anybody? Um, so people are like, for me to just go ahead and approve an expense after that, um, it's kind of like, can you let the wound heal a little bit? And
Yeah.
I just get the notion that there wasn't like maybe you as the person, and my assumption could be completely wrong, but as you, in my opinion, I feel like you are the person that was the keep it real. This is what it is. Here's the data. This is what we're doing. And then you had the dreamer, and then you have the I don't have a nice word to articulate that right now, but you have the person that's just trying to create organized chaos to keep things moving. I don't know how to. That's the way it appears to me.
Treading.
Um,
There was a lot of treading water going on, just trying to
yeah,
keep their head up.
yeah.
Um,
And that's just a place like coming from a place of scarcity is very hard to it's hard to navigate, and that goes back to like when we start to talk about compensation and equity. Like, yeah, I mean, I asked Nathaniel to send me this information 2 months ago. Like, there was I don't know if you even know that if you had time to talk to the guys about like how this whole Gusto thing rolled out, but I've been asking for that since March
mhm.
8th. I just got it uh maybe 6 days ago, and I think the issue was there was like a little bit of hesitation and shame because when you see the money and you see the compensation, that tells a story. And it's like, okay, but if that's what the story is, let's get past that so that we can figure out a solution. And so, he clearly, panicked. And since he was the one processing payroll, he said, well, shit, I might be, I might be getting, I might be getting my marching orders. So let me just make sure that I reimburse myself. And that was just, I don't know why he did that, but
No,
Nathaniel,
so if I could, there's a lot to unpack here, but if I could just explain for a few minutes, and and this is my point of view as well. I I still struggle to understand why the company was set up the way it's set up and why 7 people who put in $10,000 8 years ago should hold any sway over anything.
hmm
That's just honesty.
I can answer
Um,
that. Yeah, yeah.
and
Because that could be very frustrating if nobody ever explained to you why that was set up that way.
and so on top of that, when systems and processes like payroll that have very sensitive information that has my social security, my information in there, there's a reluctance to share those sorts of things. I didn't
hmm
I didn't have any input on sharing Gusto or not. That was not my thing. But
hmm
I'm telling you from the other side of things, this is how it was viewed as
hmm
why do you have the right to see payroll? Why do you have that kind of, I mean, the board of directors didn't have access. So I'm just trying to give you perspective on where that would come from.
Yeah.
And
Let's have that talk. I mean, I can answer that.
yeah.
So, the way that GTV was originally structured, we had GTV and then we had True Algae. They were two separate entities.
Hmm.
The the parent company, which was Green Tech Ventures, was set up originally by 5 people. Thomas and Nathaniel were the last two that we added. And at that time, when it was set up, Mark was the CEO of the company. And
Gotcha.
we had intentionally set up that company that way so that all investment would go into the subsidy of the company so that all the IP was protected at the parent level. When Nathaniel got involved, Nathaniel said, absolutely not. We're gonna and we will only invest at the parent level and where the IP was held. And then when Nathaniel became CEO and Taka got involved, all of those dynamics changed. But the Green Tech Ventures was only supposed to ever had 7 owners from the get-go. All the investors were supposed to be investing into where the revenue was going to be coming into, which was True Algae,
Uh-huh.
which was established in I believe it was in Maryland and Delaware. And at some point, it was a decision made to get rid of True Algae as a subsidiary because all revenue, what should have happened is all the revenue and all the investors should have invested into True Algae, and then there was going to be a licensing agreement or like a payout to the seven of us, so that there can be control over the IP because that was the biggest and most important thing at the time. We were
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to even be involved in True Algae
Mm-hmm.
at the company, so that's why the regular bylaws always goes back to GTV,
TV. Got it. Yeah. Yeah, because True
and
Ink doesn't exist.
they decided to dissolve it. All the money, like all the investors should have invested into True Algae Incorporated, and then they wound up dissolving it. We formed both companies at the same time to avoid all of this mess, to avoid having a ridiculous cap table, because all investors would have been all of those 25,000, 50,000. They would have all been owners of True Algae. So our cap table at GTV wouldn't ever look as ridiculous as it looks now. That's what we were
Gotcha.
trying to avoid. We were very methodical with how we set this company up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to answer your question, so that's kind of gives you some understanding of how things were set up. So that's why it seems like 7 people have all of this power, and you're like, "Whoa, you guys only invested 10,000." Well, at once Nathaniel made the initial investment with his company,
Next, an X.
next, next, next,
Yeah.
yeah, next Impact Ventures with Oscar and Taka. Um, Everything kind of went out the window. And
Mm-hmm.
then Mr. Park was an advocate for Nathaniel being the CEO. He literally said at Nathaniel's office, when they used to have a co-working space at Verizon, when there was like a Verizon hub that was doing like an incubation thing. He was like, "Hey, Nathaniel's the tall white guy. Let's make him CEO." And everybody looked at him, and we said, "Okay, we see where this is headed." We didn't even fight it, and then you guys never heard from me after that.
Yeah.
And this is all in the midst of us building our demonstration plant with Sweet Life. And so I've never physically seen the plant for Sweet Life. I was already
Out.
told to step aside.
Gotcha.
Because I mean, I'm more polished now, but I mean, you can probably imagine at 33, 34, and I see a bunch of old guys doing all kind of craziness, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? This is not how you run business. But
Yeah.
um, it is what it is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. And I'm sure those optics weren't correctly explained. And that's actually a good bullet point for me to make notes at when we do have
Mm-hmm.
this open format to explain. A lot of people, and that's what, even when we look at the call that we had with Renaissance, a lot of people are, any like really squared away institutional investor, when they peel back this company, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot
It's
going
a
on.
mess. It's an absolute mess. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And back to your question about the culture. The culture was, has been a, open and honest culture. I really believe that. Uh, I have worked for, um, pardon my French, assholes in the past.
Hmm.
And at this stage in my career, I wasn't going to do that. So I interviewed Taka and Nathaniel before I said I would ever do anything. I had a trial run as an advisor for a period of time because I wanted to know if I liked these guys enough to work with, because
Hmm.
I'm not going to waste my time on, and I'd come out of a really bad situation right before as well,
Hmm.
with a narcissistic woman, um,
Mm.
that had all these glamour-ons who followed her around and kissed her butt, and she would treat them like crap and then buy their horse a new horse bit or their dog a new bed to make up for being an asshole.
Hmm.
and I don't play that game. So I stayed for a year so that I could get vested in my options, and then of course the company collapsed. So, but anyway, so um, both Taka and Nathaniel have very good hearts, but they have no business experience, and it's uh, it, it it's an 8-year-old company that has the looks and feel of a 6-month-old company at this
A
point.
t-shirt business that I owned in college.
Yeah, and it's been frustrating from the perspective of governance and that sort of stuff. From the perspective of um, what has been built in the true value of the company, that's a different story. And we we have really worked hard, and I will say I have, because I'm very proud of what I've accomplished with very little money to do it, to get to the point where we do know what's in our product. We do know the stability of the product. We do know how it acts in the soil and what it does. We can communicate all of these things and clearly and concisely to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. And when I joined, it was the Mr. Park show of spray and pray and hope it works.
Hmm.
And nobody knew anything about the product. It was an idea. It wasn't a product at that point. Um, so anyway, it's the the structure is made out of playing cards, but there's a lot of meat in the middle, and
Hmm.
that's we know the product works. Um, we've seen it in many cases and tested it in a lot of different applications and ways, um, and yes, the sales side, as we talked about before, has been extremely challenging. And when you have no money to pay salespeople, you don't get sales. That's just the name of the game. If there's nobody selling, and I would do my best, but I couldn't travel. So I'm not going to be able to go shake a farmer's hand if I can't get there. Um, and the good news today is one of the business to business relationships that I've established is placing an order small because it's just for the formulation aspect, but that means they're making a formula, which means they're going to buy and they're going to buy in quantity. So, and this is not the high margin business you're talking about at retail. This is the volume business at still a good margin, but not not us selling at 30 or $60 a gallon to, mom and pop.
That's not so when we go when we get a chance to for you to like really pick, and I sent Nathaniel like a marketing. I don't know if he probably couldn't share it with you because I have it locked down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna open it up to you today so you can see
Okay.
it. Um, I don't think that 30 $60 gallon is the play. Um I'm thinking that this should be like, even I have a call at 5 o'clock today with one of the guys that is works for he doesn't work for me. He is a client of mine that uses my software
Yeah.
for his Amazon FBA business. He's managing like $100 million a month in Amazon sales for like 10 different clients. And I sent it to him. He's in Florida, and he just so happens to have worked with a soil company on Amazon before.
Mm.
So he's doing a deep dive. We're gonna get on the phone today and figure out how to fix our Amazon mess. I mean, even on the Amazon channel, I don't even think we own that page. I think we have a distributor that's been putting our stuff up there.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
It's true
and
because
the price and the size of it is too high when you look at the dilution. We should be selling that stuff at like $9 or $10 for that size, and the label has one dilution, then the description has another, and it's like, oh shit. We could be like killing the plants because we're not giving people the right information because we're not controlling our information. So I don't think it should be a 30 or $60 product. It's that's not the play that I have in mind either. It's I don't think we should be selling it. I think we should be selling it in no bigger than a liter. or maybe
Mhm.
500 milliliters and go from there. And it should be like a $5 or $10 product because it doesn't cost us that much money to make. And we have to get the name out there and brand equity. And that's why I also agree with you when you mentioned, why do we have a product called True Algae and we don't sell algae?
Right.
Like, so I'm in alignment with a lot more than you probably know. And
No, no,
be,
I'm
yeah,
not saying we're out of alignment.
yeah.
I feel like uh I I hear, like I heard you say on Friday that, or last week one time, that you're working with Thomas and Mark on a pricing strategy. And here I am sitting here who's been in the business, dealing with pricing, dealing with customers, know the price structure in agriculture. And, so I don't know that you value my input.
Oh, okay. So that was from a conceptual standpoint. Like, so every email that you've sent me, I've shared with them so that they can get the understanding that you have the experience and understand the science. So when I say that, I mean I'm taking the things that we discuss and talking to them about it. That's what I meant by that. Not that we're going to determine what we think is the pricing structure. No, I took the information you shared with me to have a conversation with them.
Yeah,
So if that,
I I understand.
yeah.
I sent that to you after you told me you were working with them on pricing. So, I'm just kind of at a bit of a loss on how I fit in, because
Hmm.
I've been managing, and yes, no sales, I get it. Managing the business side of things the best I can. And yes, and also bringing the science along. To me, other than these Japanese relationships Taka has brought in, I've been doing everything for the company that is outward facing, and, managing getting to a point where our product does have value in the marketplace. And it didn't have value when I first came in because there was nothing there, and it wasn't about a brand name. So we don't call the product True Algae, we call it True Solum.
Solemn, yeah.
And it means true soil because that's where it works. And the the brand name isn't what's going to drive it. It's does it work for the customer?
Right.
And so, for from my perspective, and that's why I ask you these questions, I've been focused very much so on large relationships, because we didn't have money to have salespeople to be farm to farm. And and quite frankly, and I'll share this with you because I know you're going to spend some time in Florida, and I don't want you to be blindsided by this. But Gary from Wish, um, the last I heard, they had divested of their farmland in California, so
Mhm.
he has no control over what they use out there. He might be able to give a few contacts. It's going to be the whole situation where you have to get them to trial it. They'll put it on a couple acres. It's going to take 3 years, all that kind of stuff. Just so
Mhm.
you know what you're walking into. I hope it's better than that, but I don't know that it will be. I don't know what they've done in Florida, if they've kept the farms or if they, did not. But the last I heard, in California, they were selling off the farms and relying on buying product, buying the berries from the farmers, and
Mhm.
not controlling, taking all the risk out of their business, basically. So that's that situation. And with Sweet Life, like I said, we had been told it was a cost issue, and then we were told other things. And so anyway, but if you look at what I sent you on that, to be at 120 an acre season or less, and the last I knew of at Sweet Life, they had about 600 acres. We're talking about $9,000 a month
Yeah,
in.
they have that's half of their we only were on half of their total. They have 1,200 total.
Okay, so 18,000 a month, which is
Right.
nice. It's nice business. Um, and if and like I was trying to explain to you, it's not about it's the cost in use. That's
Hmm.
the important part. It's not so much, and you need to build in the margin so that you can have distributors like Council Oxford, who pays $12.30 a gallon, but marks it up to 20 to 22 when they sell it to a farmer.
Hmm.
And So anyway, that's getting in the weeds of
No,
all.
no, that was important information.
Yeah,
Because it's you communicating how you want to understand where you fit in and how your time is going to be best utilized if it will be utilized. And so my going back to like the question that you asked in the email,
yeah,
um, I feel that we have to like your focus and what you've been putting a lot of work on has been the commercial side of stuff. If you notice, most of my conversations have never been about the things that you do
yeah.
because I,
That was that's actually a concern of mine
yeah. So I don't
because
I
then
haven't
I
had that.
take it as you don't care, you
No,
know.
no, 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 no. I'm taking it as I don't um if that's what you've been doing, why am I going to alter that process until you explain to me what that process is and I understand how I can help support you with that. I That's been what the focus is of everyone, so to speak. Let's go commercial. That is a long process, like everyone has agreed, that it is. And so I can't go and just disrupt that process because there's new management and new board. So when I'm hands off, that's saying when you're ready to explain to me how that works, I can figure out how to support you in that role. But I wasn't going in there to disrupt your role.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so because we have and I mentioned this to you, I probably never sent it. I have a spreadsheet with all the B2Bs that, including Taka's Japanese connections and kind of a status. I think I updated it in March or maybe early April. But anyway, it's something that you could see where we are. We're not as far along as like I would like to have been able to keep filling the pipeline because some of these, as you can imagine, you get like a 10% hit rate, you don't get
Hmm.
100%. So you got to keep filling the pipeline. As I explained before, we've had very limited resources to fill that pipeline, going to shows, doing whatever. Some of them drop off and I want to keep backfilling. So anyway, that I see, and this company Tsetsis, they're the ones I talked to you about in turf. You remember I
Hmm.
was talking about the turf guys? So they just sent a request today for it's not a lot, 15 gallons, but it's for their formulation group. So they're working on the formula so that they are ready to go to market. That's what
Hmm.
that means. So we've hit that point with them. It's a big step with uh,
Hmm.
with them to get to that point.
So on
Um,
the commercial side, when and so the reason the other thing is like I don't understand any of what you've been doing. So we need to hopefully we can have a couple of calls where I
yeah,
get educated and smart on that because I'm not anti commercial and I feel like focusing on the things that like are right in front of us, if
yeah,
possible,
agree.
can help us pay the bills. That's all that when you hear me focus on
Yes,
B2C or farms, all I'm trying to do is get the revenue in so that people can get so that we can pay all of our bills, we can be cash flow positive, and then
yeah,
one of the things that you're working on might need financial support that we can pay because we're not, I just don't agree with this whole thing of Taka told me you need to go ask Nadal for $500,000. And I'm like, what? Like, that's not the solution. We got to figure our shit out. And that means how can we get sales? We have this plant here. And I really believe that on the immediate side of the business, and I know we're going into watermelon season and all that, if we can't get sales where we live, that's a huge issue. That's a huge red flag. But if we can figure out how to pay our bills, support what you're doing on the commercial side, because we know that we want those huge,
hmm
you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sales coming in. So I'm not, and I apologize if like I keep, if I'm talking about the things that are right in front of me, but and no,
no,
in my vision and what I how we that's essential because I mean at
absolutely.
the end of the day, that's where all this money has gone to for paying salaries and legal fees and research and development costs. All that money that we raised, that's what it went to.
No, and I couldn't agree with you more. If we can get sales out of these companies, awesome. It hasn't been available to us. Our, Kirk and Zach know the Sweet Life guys. They haven't talked to Steve. It's been Andy in the field, and they got pushback.
Yeah.
And Wish that just kind of disappeared. They never bought in Florida anyway. Um, or if they did, it was like one tote, and then they never bought again for
Hmm.
a trial. So, and I told you, I told you the tale of what was going on, and
Hmm.
it brought back all these memories. Now I totally remember what was going on, because I inherited it when I came in. It was um, to save money on shipping. We would ship a truckload to Wish in California, and then they would let us know how many gallons they used, and then we would invoice them. So it was on consignment, basically. And I don't think we ever got paid for the last 7 totes
Hmm.
because, they they stopped using it when we stopped sending Hank
Yeah.
money. So it was a hot mess, that whole
Hmm.
situation, which is why and I haven't held back on this. I have absolutely no desire to work with Mr. Park. So
I
that
hear you.
he's not an ethical human being.
Hmm.
And that may be cultural in nature,
Hmm.
something, but it doesn't work in my world. I
Hmm.
spent nearly 40 years developing the reputation I have, and I'm not going to lose it. So anyway, that's a whole other.
Yeah. That's a boundary that's important to understand.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so I I don't want you to think, obviously, sales, real time, today is of a priority. We've got Council Oxford and Jack kind of rolling in. I think these last 2 totes might have been for watermelon, um,
Hmm.
but it's in a different area. It's not in Plant City. It's about 60 miles away. That he's been able to get this distributor rocking and rolling, and so anyway, that's uh
Yeah, so my role, like, if I can come in to, whatever, regardless of the title, because right now I'm chief janitor. Um, if I could come in and provide some things that help generate revenue
yeah, absolutely.
ethically, because you're never gonna have to worry about any of that. Like, I have a whole other business that does very well and is very respected in the marketing agency space. And even some of the call that I had today that went really well, that was because of the marketer could potentially utilize my software as a way to help offset the acquisition cost to help True Algae.
Yes.
So I'm not compromising
Yeah.
any of that. I'm still young, kind of, and so I still have some more gas to to be in the business world, and I cannot have a bad reputation
No,
out
you
here.
can't afford it. You can't
I
afford
won't do it. And so,
it. I
um,
appreciate that.
yeah, and so yeah, I'm just trying to help where I can, like, get some quick wins for us, to help stabilize things without us having to, and there's no other nice way to say it, whore ourselves out to these other opportunities. I don't see them helping us. And I'm very concerned about Japan. I'm very concerned about Canada. And I honestly I would like your thoughts on those. I would love to just say, hey, can we clean up our house first before we, do these other, these external deals? Like, that's what my gut's telling me, and that's what I've communicated to everyone, and that's what I'm going to communicate to Nathaniel when I speak to him after I speak to you.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? I just think we need to clean up our house. I don't think we need to be. That Japan deal just reminds me of ES&T Part Two, where we send that equipment out. I don't think you or Nathaniel have very much interaction with setting up that deal, and the way that I'm being communicated to by the person that's in charge of that deal, it just doesn't feel good. And this is business is not about feelings, but it's like, um
No, you got to use your gut to know
yeah,
whether or not it stinks or you know.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think that there. I if I would have put on my priority list of countries where I would have gone and pursued, Japan would have not been in the top 20. Um, it, it's a small market. They have very fertile soil. I don't know that we are going to be extremely successful there. Um, and it was purely opportunistic in nature, of how that all generated. That said, um, well, and I'll finish on that, and I've already expressed this to you before, and it's nothing I haven't said to Taka and Nathaniel directly. The way the deal was done stinks. I was against it the whole way through. I don't understand why a big company that is backing this whole thing can't just pay,
Hmm.
why it's 50,000 a quarter, and what the hell is that about? I don't. I think it's it's not good, and I do understand culturally in Japan. You know, if you and this is and Taka's not a negotiator.
Hmm.
You know, it's he is not a negotiator, and there was a period of time where I was so upset with him because I caught him in a couple situations where he was um, saying things that he believed to be the case, but were not actually the case when it came to Japan. Meaning, he said, we can't ask for minimums because that means we don't trust them and they won't take it and so we asked for minimums and guess what they said? Oh, okay. So, that's how it's very black and white for him. And he's he should never be in charge of negotiating a deal because he'll just say whatever you want. And I've told him this to his face.
Yeah.
He is not an advocate for true algae in this deal. He is an advocate for them. And that is not what we needed in that negotiation. So I've negotiated big deals. I
Hmm. That's
like
a shit deal. There's no, Angela, there's no nice way to put it. It's a shit deal.
yeah,
It makes no sense. It's a deal out of desperation, and
yeah,
they can see, I'm sure they can see the desperation by reading between the lines.
yeah,
If it wasn't disclosed to them on the other side of where we are, hey, this is where they are, this is what you can get. The equipment's just sitting there.
yeah,
Let me create an opportunity to live to fight another day. That's what
yeah,
it looks like to me.
yeah.
Um,
And, and in business, I do believe in open and honest, but in business there are puts where you don't disclose certain facts in order to preserve your negotiating position. Um, you talked earlier about licensing, and one of the biggest deals I ever did was with Nestle for the infant formula side of business. I got them to pay $8 million up front for the license,
yeah.
and now their back was up against the wall because all the other infant formulas had already signed up and they got much lower licensing initiation fees. But Nestle paid a lot, so which was really fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, these people have money. I mean,
Yeah,
and if they don't, you
we
also, so
shouldn't be. Yeah,
you
we,
said this, so I'm regurgitating what you said.
yeah,
Why are we dealing with startups at this point? We're not a startup.
no.
If you don't have, and I believe the reason why we've been forced to deal with these situations is because we haven't proven sales. Um,
You're. I believe that is some of the game. Absolutely. That to the fact that and the way we explain it is proof of concept. We did, showed on the farm, it would work, it was this, it was that. Because, quite frankly, some of these business to business relationships we're trying to build, they don't want us out there competing against them either, so it is kind of a balance that we're going to have to strike
mhm,
going forward between what's going on in the field with our brand versus what we're doing. And you can do both. It's not
mhm.
you can't. It's just how we present ourselves, but that's how we've presented it to investors in particular, is we proved it out conceptually, and now we're going, because a one product company it's very hard to get traction with distributors, um, because the distributors are mostly owned, and owned I put in quotes, but it's like it's known that this national distributor is tightly bound with Syngenta.
In,
And
incentivized. Yeah.
this national distributor is tightly bound with Bayer. And this
Hmm.
one, so on and so forth. And so for a little company like ours to break into something like that with one product is really, really challenging. Now, to get sales locally and that sort of stuff, that makes sense. And I'm all for that to pay the bills for sure. It's just how do we grow beyond that? That uh, doesn't mean a huge infrastructure to support the sales, and
Yeah.
that was the issue we ran into. I mean, I kind of giggled, and I know we're out of time, but I kind of
No,
giggled.
no. I mean, I don't have
You don't have a
a
2 o'clock?
no. I'll tell Nathaniel. He asked about a 2 o'clock, but I never confirmed with him.
Okay.
Um, Let me
So,
make sure. Yeah, you keep going. He's not on my calendar. You're fine.
okay. So I kind of giggled at the beginning when you said you wanted to return us to profitability. I'm like, how about just get there? Because we've
Yeah.
never been. So
I echoed that from when we had, so we had a period of time when we had sales coming in, and those sales were able to pay off. This was 2019, right before COVID. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, right before COVID,
mhm.
going into 2000, no, no, 2020, I guess, when we were working with Wish and Sweet Life. And it's like the money that was coming, we were still raising funds, of course, but we were spending money like crazy because I saw the paperwork.
Yeah, because
But
when the new facility opened in March of 2020, which is when I joined,
yeah,
uh, and so March 2020, all of a sudden our expenses went from almost nothing to a ton, a lot.
yeah. I was never that should have never happened. And we should have stayed where we were
Yep.
with a 2.5 ton. And yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
that
don't.
might be something we have to have a conversation about. I mean, the costs are where they are, but like I still need Taka to connect me with the landlord to make sure that the agreement that's verbal for reducing the cost, 25, to 2,500 is still fine. Like these are all things that I'm trying to
Yeah.
unpack, as I'm trying to understand that you're working for, 25% of your value, half of what you were contracted to. I'm pretty sure that no one ever sent you an updated agreement with the new payment structure because the stuff that Nathaniel showed me still has the old compensation amount.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. No, there's never been a new contract. There's never been, because I thought when I joined at 120,000 a year, which, as you stated, at that rate, it was less
mhm,
than half than of what I've been making. I mean,
mhm,
yeah, Martech was a fat cow that I really sucked a lot out of, which was really good. But uh, but yeah, at 120, I thought coming in, I mean, I was presented all these grand plans, and then shown this giant manufacturing facility, and I'm like, wow, they must have a lot of sales,
yeah,
and or a lot of almost sales,
yeah,
and it wasn't true. None of it was true. And anyway, so I thought I'd be working at that rate for 6 months, maybe a year,
yeah,
and then things would take off and I could get what I was worth. And it went the other way. In fact, I think I told you the before I got my first paycheck, everything shut down for COVID and panic ensued, and my pay was cut in half before I even got my first paycheck. Um,
wow,
yeah, so my first paycheck, instead of being 10,000, was 5,000, and it stayed that way for a while. Then it went back up to where it was supposed to be. Then it went back down. Then for a 2 year period, I was being paid what I was supposed to. But then for the last, since February of last year,
hmm,
I'm paid at this rate. And and I will be honest with you, because we don't have the money to do much. I can fit my workload into reasonable hours. It's
hmm,
not like I'm working 10-hour days and traveling all over the place. So, you know, but
You make it
that's,
work.
yeah, I make it work. And it's, you know, anyway, enough on that. But I I heard you before talk about paying people what they're worth. Um, I don't know how the company gets to that point
Hmm.
anytime soon. It's and and I think to your point, because you wanted to ask my opinion about this, I worked for, you know, several companies that gave incentive comp, Martech being the most successful, but I've worked with a couple others that, I had one other decent exit that just happened recently. I wasn't there for the exit. I had moved on, but I had vested in my shares, so got a little payday. Um, and I think that there is a balance between the incentive and the salary, because the salary needs to pay that employee's bills and make them comfortable and happy where they are.
Hmm.
The incentive is the icing on the cake that, um, I don't feel like most people, there are the 0.1 percenters who are making millions of dollars a year. But I think that most people's salaries are that you're not going to get rich off your salary. It's unless you're one of these very frugal people who never spend anything, but you're going to spend what you're bringing in. It's just
Hmm.
natural. And so the incentive comp is like, it's a reward out there.
Hmm.
But it's not the focus. And at Martech, it was never the focus uh to be acquired. In fact, that wasn't what the end game was supposed to be. Um, but we were also public,
Hmm.
so I could sell shares anytime I wanted to. Well, not anytime. There were certainly, as an officer of that company, there were a lot of closed windows, which was
Hmm.
frustrating for trying to balance your portfolio, because you don't want everything in one bag, right?
Hmm.
If something goes wrong, then you don't want everything in real estate or the stock market. You want to kind of balance things out. Anyway, so I think there's value in both, um, but I do think that there the basic structure is to pay people a living wage, which is not what has been happening at True Algae.
Hmm.
You know,
I agree, and I think the only that's why I truly believe the only Easter egg or the only carrot to dangle was, issuing all these shares. And it's like, okay, cool. Equity incentive plan. When you do the numbers, 26% of our dilution is from the equity incentive plan, which would be fine. And I don't think anybody would be opposing it if we were doing things to get towards being able to liquidate. And
yeah,
like nobody has the ability to take anything off the table right now. I
no,
mean, so it's like, yeah,
no,
you're giving me all these shares, but for what? The company still has $90,000 in the account and is like a couple of months, if that, from having to restructure, do an asset sale, or file bankruptcy.
right.
So where's the happy balance between, making sure that when you're like normally when you're in a startup, and I've been involved in three different startups so far, they pay you nothing basically, or below working wage like what you're doing now, and they give you a bunch of stock options because they're trending towards some sort of acquisition or going public. In my opinion, that's not happening right now. So what is the incentive for someone to work?
Mhm.
The only incentive, in my opinion, and this is going to sound really effed up, but the only thing that I feel like the officers have had to look forward to is raising more money so that they can keep a paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
It's a harsh truth, but that I mean, it's like telling me to go get 500K from one of our former investors. So to do what? To keep paying you $8,000 and playing around in Japan, or for what? Like, what are we doing? Like, what is the end goal for us to get to the point where my shares are worth more than 27 cents after going down 4 times in the last three raises. Like there's I just don't see that's the best use of our money. Like
Yeah.
um so what I would like to do, as we go through this call is first I want to acknowledge like I do see that the what you're being paid is not market rate, it's not a living wage. But I just don't want right now I don't think it's the time to I don't want to take I've taken the responsibility to be CEO of this company until we figure out the next steps. Um, but I don't want to be held responsible for somebody over promising and under delivering. Like I'm literally doing the best I can to keep the paychecks going for the people that we want to move forward with. And I think we have to like you're a crucial part to us moving forward. And I'm trying to just keep the lights on, bills paid as much as I can. But we have to figure out where we're going to cut costs until we build a revenue model temporarily. And so we
Mhm.
can't like we cannot stop the commercial stuff that you're doing. Have no intention, never had any intention. Don't see there's no logic behind that. And so I'm trying to just keep everything, the way it is. But there's other um there's other roles I really don't understand. Like where are we getting any type of return? Data and science and relationships that are turning into the commercial side of our business is completely understandable. Never held you accountable for sales because that was that was someone making a decision before I was here to not understand what your strengths were and asking you to do a lot for not your pay or your expertise. Like you're not a marketer, you're not a salesperson, you're not a sales director. You have a science background based off of single cell organisms. You come from an algae background. And if you're going to ask someone to build out a sales channel, you need to be able to provide them with the resources to execute that. So
Yeah, and
that
just so
that
you
goes back to
yeah,
Nathaniel.
and just so you understand, I have always been on the commercial side of business.
Mhm,
I've not been on the science side. So I have managed sales forces before.
mhm,
I have uh, run marketing programs and marketing departments before. I had 50 people working for me in the commercial side of Martech, very successful. But if you don't have salespeople on the ground doing stuff, selling, you can't sell. It's just a fact of it's like death and taxes. If
mhm.
nobody's on the ground selling, particularly, in this industry, you got to be in hand-to-hand combat with these farmers. And we couldn't. Um,
So okay, so okay, so the statement I made is based off of conversations with Nathaniel and Taka. So your background is actually sales and marketing. They put the title of you as science officer and commercial officer because that was a need that the business had that you just had to figure out.
yes, and I have always been the liaison between the commercial team and operations and research in all
Mhm.
the roles I've been in. Whether well, as CEO, of course I was, but I've always been. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. So my role where I have been exceedingly successful is in is in building the structure needed to commercialize a product. So have I managed sales forces? Yes, but it wasn't me like talking to each sales guy every day. I had a sales manager who worked for me that did that stuff. But so that's a big company. So
Mhm.
well, not big. We were at our peak 650 people, so still not that big. But my role has always been, and what I did at Martech, and I did this several times. I did it with things before the omega threes with stable isotope biochemicals. I did it with uh, you know with fluorescent pigments. And then when we got got the product ready to go for infant formula, it was putting all the things that you need to make a product ready to be commercialized and launching that product into the market. And then there were marketing people, there were sales people who drove it into the market. Running a running business has never been what I like to do, nor what I'm good at. Now, we didn't even have a running business when I came in. We had 2 customers. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and we were doing what we could with that. So I am sure that Nathaniel and Taka, I mean, yes, what I do the best for this company in our situation right now is explain the science to the, whether it's investors, customers, B2B, whatever. Um, the hand-to-hand combat going up the farm drive, we were trying to rely on other people to do that. And I was trying to feed them the proper information so that they could get it done.
Okay. Can I pause you for a second?
Yep.
So that's what you feel is the thing that you've been most successful at here with GTV?
No, because we didn't have the resources to have people to
Hmm.
feed the information to. But I feel like I've been most successful with is on the B2B side and
Hmm.
driving those relationships. And out of necessity, because we couldn't afford to keep salespeople, we keep saying, and I would argue with Nathaniel about this. We kept saying it's a 3-year sales cycle, and then we'd hire a salesperson and let them go after 18 months. I'm like, well, they didn't get any sales because it's a 3-year sales cycle.
Hmm.
So Jack, we finally got to the point of, reasonable sales because we made it work long enough, and he's dedicated. He believes in the product. So no, I don't feel I was successful at sales. Obviously
No, 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 no. That's not what I asked.
I'm
I said
not.
that, do you feel you were most successful at explaining the science? I didn't say anything about
Yes,
sales. Okay.
yes,
Yeah, I didn't say
absolutely.
I didn't say anything about sales.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely what it's taking all the data and communicating it to whatever entity you're trying to communicate it to, and understanding what they're looking for from a value perspective. It's reading the room and saying, oh, this is an investor and he asked me a question about XYZ. Oh, he must be interested in corn, or he knows something about the microbiome, or and then targeting and answering those questions. So it's presenting the science, which I know we said we were going to do that sometime. Presenting the science, and then the Q&A, which is where the magic is. And to, you know, if you train somebody long enough, they can make the presentation. They can't do, what you can't train them to do is process it and answer the questions when they come. You know, that's
So,
the challenge.
okay. So I think that part of what you've been doing is extremely useful to like my growth and development with what I need to do. Um, so how do we create a process to um put it, put that into a repeatable, replicatable, understandable process to have you focus your time and your energy on the things that you feel are going to help drive us to, get to that point of commercial sales serendipity.
Well, I mean, I guess it's doing what I've been able to do in a small way, in a bigger way, which is, being able to prospect and get more of these opportunities in front of us, and finding ways to do that. I've used, conferences, but I've only been able to go to one a year because of budget. Um, and in the beginning, I went to none because it was COVID. Um,
Hmm.
so, so I missed out on the first probably 2 years of opportunities on that side. But I was more focused on the hand to hand at that point, trying to keep the business we had and build upon it. Um, with Sweet Life and with Wish, and we we did get a few other customers in Florida, but they didn't last. They bought a tote or two and then they just dropped away. And that was when Thomas was around, and they just didn't keep buying. And
Mhm.
I guess it was budget.
Mhm. So, and so this is the part of the convo where, so I want to finish. So I know you had
Yeah.
asked about equity. I understand your thoughts on equity right now. I mean, you know where the money is. We're
Yeah.
just trying to keep the bills paid.
Yep.
Um, I understand, the incentive, like, so the board, um, doesn't have and has never had situational awareness of why, the where, the what, and the why. And that's what's been happening on these phone calls. We've been getting a lot of understanding, just like hopefully I'm providing some context to you to understand like the
Hmm.
ethos and the origination of how things have started. And so hopefully we can slowly get to this place where everybody is aligned. We don't want a disconnect between the board and management.
Yeah.
Um, and we have it a little bit because I'm now part of management, but we need to also, get your alignment as well. And I don't think it's going to be hard. Like this is not a us versus them thing at all.
Hmm.
That's not productive to anybody, and
Hmm.
this isn't also, having anyone feel like they're on the chopping block. And even like in the things that you were explaining, like I feel like naturally because of the challenges that we've had in GTV, that the things that I think you would like to do, um, those might have been, or that where you feel that would be most effective for the betterment of the company. Sometimes you've had to push those aside to do these other things to survive.
Hmm.
And so what I need to understand is how can I empower you, um, to have you focus on the things that you feel are going to help us on the commercialization side so that those other things that have been pushed to you are no longer like a distraction to you. When you were talking about all of the things that you've been doing, I have on my piece of paper, WTF was Nathaniel doing? Like, because some of the things that you are mentioning, I would think that the CEO of the company should be doing. But whatever, we're not there anymore. And so I feel like maybe a lot, and this tends to happen a lot in businesses. The men lean on women because I believe women keep things together and have a little bit more this testicular fortitude we talk about. Usually, it's really a feminine energy that we don't know about yet, and men tend to kind of behave better around women. And so it's essential to understand what can we take from you that is a nuance, or I mean a nuisance, to have you focus on the things that give you the peace of mind to do your job at the current pay effectively. Um, and so like I'm really excited about like if there's a possibility to be able to have you explain the science to me so that
Hmm.
I can figure out how to, like, if we don't understand the basic things that are like in your head or in your SOPs, we can't even do sales and marketing. And we have to figure out how to replicate the essence of what you've created so that it can be distributed to, if we do build a sales team out or have a sales director, it can't all fall on you.
No, and that's it's very true. And that's where there is some, gaps in the fact that I am the owner, and even when I've tried to explain and get it ingrained in other people's heads inside the company, it doesn't resonate because they're not they're not wired that way. It's and I always feel like I'm really good in communicating to people where they are, but they're non-science people, they're non business people, they're bankers. um you know there's something else, they're a different being, and you're gone. Goodbye. Okay, about that. Hmm.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah,
But
I don't know what happened. All the everything went out for like 2 minutes. I don't know what happened.
yeah, it was kind of funny because you were frozen. I'm talking to you and I'm like, I'm getting no reaction. So
Yeah, you were frozen too, and I was, oh man.
and you just dropped out. So
Sorry about that. Do you
that's
remember what you were saying?
I think I was talking about the gap in
Hmm.
getting from what's in my head to where it needs to go,
Hmm.
um, without me being the mouthpiece.
Hmm.
um, because I've never been successful in getting Taka or Nathaniel up to speed and able to do that. And it it may be, Nathaniel is good scientifically because he'll research and he'll get into it and stuff, but but he can only follow a script. It's the Q&A is where the problems come in.
Hmm.
So, to boil it down into, and Maria Paula did a nice job of putting a brochure together for Brazil at one point. Um, and we could look at that um, as a starting place. And like I said, I could do this, you know, a basic presentation that I use that I sent you as a starting point. So this is the introduction. But then there are so many layers below that because agriculture, I'm telling you, I've worked in human nutrition, a little in animal nutrition. Um, I've worked in machine tools. Um, by far, agriculture is the most complicated and challenging environment I've seen. It's much more challenging than human nutrition, dietary supplements, food and beverage, all that stuff it's easy compared to this. It's the it is a primitive marketplace. That's what I'll say about it. It's primitive. It's fractured. Um, there's no like standards. There's no. It's just a. It's just the wild, wild west.
Yeah, it's because it's very complicated, but it's simple because at the end of the day, somehow the stuff ends up on our table to eat, and it's
Yes,
like the people that are in charge of that have kind of been forgotten and just have to figure it out.
it's a terrible situation
Yeah.
that we're in, and not just. No, I could get on my soapbox about because I'm also a fitness instructor,
Oh, okay.
and because of my passion for human nutrition from my 20 years with Martech and other companies, um, I'm kind of passionate about people staying well, you know,
Me too.
and it's just a travesty what's going on in our food system. A travesty.
Yeah, we have a huge food security. Like in the very first PowerPoint that I made based off of whatever information I had gotten from Mr. Park and trying to build this thing. This is even before Nathaniel was involved. Food security was the second slide.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a self-proclaimed biohacker. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
super like I take my lion's mane every day,
Yeah.
my L-tyrosine, my ashwagandha. I'm very, very Alzheimer's did a number on my family, and so like I'm
Mm-hmm.
always focused on
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. I've even Doctor. I don't know if you've heard of him. Have you heard of Dr. Amen from Amen Clinics and Mike Amen?
I have.
I've actually Dr. Amen is one of my doctors. I had a brain scan like 3 years ago just to
Okay.
kind of see the brain is like one of the organs that people always diagnose, but we don't ever take the time out to see what it looks like. And so, just understanding um, plant medicine, things like that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a hippie or anything like that, but just understanding like how important like food security is. I mean, our society has no idea how dangerous like sugar has ravaged this world. And I mean, wars have been fought over sugar. We have a lot of our race relations in this country all comes down to sugar cane and what we did in the Caribbean and other countries in the South.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it's like more people have died over sugar than other things.
Yeah.
And when you go to a sugar plantation in in New Orleans and see how much money was involved over creating this whole race baiting thing over sugar, and then to see what it does to our bodies, it's just ridiculous. But that's my soapbox. Um,
And the interesting part about that is in the US diet, the big change happened with the famous doctor who worked for Merck, that Merck paid him, and he decided cholesterol and fat in our diets were, I'm telling you, I eat so much fat. I eat fat. I only eat fat and protein until at least 5 o'clock at night, sometimes later, and then I'll have some carbohydrates. But um, it's it's the sugar, and it's been a conspiracy to keep us sick.
yeah,
Um, and I totally believe that the pharmaceutical companies don't want us, and the government has reacted that way as well by big pharma lobbies control, whether it's insurance companies or pharma companies. That's who controls the country. That's who controls our ability to stay healthy. We don't have a healthcare system, we have a sick care system. And why shouldn't I get reimbursement for my gym membership or my dietary supplements? But yet you'll pay for these drugs for diabetes, which I could prevent if I just ate better? No,
you're right.
it's wrong.
These
It's
are the conversations that we had when we were sitting down in Mark's dining room table in Columbia Heights. Like when this ninja water came in front of us, we were like, this is going to help all of these things.
yeah,
That's where the enthusiasm was from, because we were like, wow, we can reduce, the amount of fertilizer being used. People can increase their yield. Like, it was so exciting. And
yeah.
those are exactly what you and I just spent 5 minutes talking about. That's what we focused on. And it'd be nice to like be able to get some of that culture back into it. It's important to have those, and I'm sure when you're talking to your prospects, these things might sometimes come up, but like that shows that the company has soul. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
those are important things. Like, if we can put more food on the table that's healthier, cleaner. I mean, half the time we don't even know what's in our food. And um, you know, I'm sure you've done some traveling, but like when I went to that farm, that strawberry farm, when Algae 4F was what they were doing is, and this is what's the dangerous thing about commercialization and technology sometimes. They were the way that they proved and got their kind of like clout when it comes to like something being novel about this technology. They were literally giving this stuff away to the local farmers.
Mhm.
And then I went to like one of these strawberry farms, and I've never seen a strawberry like this in all of the strawberries, they look like they were wax. They were made from wax. Like,
Yeah.
that's how perfect that they looked. They were
Yeah.
huge,
Hmm.
and it was just they putting the clopia on it. And now
Hmm.
we figured out, okay, it's not really the clopia. It's what's happening with what you have discovered.
The soul.
Um, this with the soil, and so we have to be able to tell that story. And I even think as we figure out our next steps, it's important to tell the whole story of like what we thought it wasn't, but this is what really works,
Yeah.
and be able to articulate that in a way that converts people to use our product. We
Yeah.
thought it was algae. Algae was a big, commercialization of algae. People looking at it for you know, for biomass. People looking at it to be a supplement. Yeah, it does really well as a supplement. People are even in the carbon capture space. But when you use our stuff in agriculture or in chicken feed, like, these are the things that are happening. And how can we take what you found out through putting together these research trials and working with the things that you've been working on? How can we need to be able to literally take that information and create a second brain to document these things,
Yeah.
because that's going to be essential to any sales process and building out a sales team. And I'd like to get your commitment and partnership to allow me to help create that process, because I think your focus, and I think this is where the call went out, I think your focus has been like derailed a little bit because you've had to figure out, okay, people might be looking to me for sales and what's going on for sales. We didn't know what to look to you for 10 days ago. We had a bunch of assumptions, and you probably saw those emails, but we didn't know what the hell was going on. And
No,
so
I
now,
see the emails actually. So
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like nobody knew what to assume. All we saw were people on um the website and Nathaniel not communicating. And the thing is like that's the past. Like we can't keep harping
No,
on
no,
what's done is done.
yeah,
But what we do need is someone to be able to help us put together that data bank, um, that those processes so that we can start to create a sales channel so that the stuff that you're doing stays the focus and someone else can handle that stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with the commercialization. So like I wanted to ask you like one of the questions that I wrote down as you were talking is like what does your ideal day look like and what would you like it to look like? Because I'm sure like if we look at what you've been doing now, it seems like it's I just want to hear that because I'm assuming that like you've been picking up a lot of slack when your time has been derailed from the things that I think you've been the most productive on, which is handling and explaining the science.
yeah. I mean, I think no day is typical. Um, it depends on what's in my inbox in the morning, and that kind of sets the tone for the day. A lot of times, or if I have calls and meetings scheduled. But it's you know I would say that at this point, because there's not much else that can be done, um, you know, I'm focused on the relationships with the corporate partners,
Hmm.
and that's whether that's from Japan or the ones that I've developed, or in answering their questions, getting them the data they want that they need to move forward, helping with their protocols and you know how to test the product and get them the product. And I would say that probably some of the stuff that drives me a little bit bananas is um is the sending product. This takes my time.
Hmm.
Sending product, whether it's paid for or a free sample to somebody. It happened with the Council Oxford order last week. Nobody put labels on the totes. And then they come back to me, well, I can't get it to the customer because there's no label on the tote. And I have to go to Kirk and Zach. I'm like, you got to get labels, drive them over, do something. I don't know what. And this kind of stuff happens all the time. It's, you know, it all falls on me.
Hmm.
Um,
So,
it,
so
it, it,
we are at the plant. We need to fix the QA. That's what I got from that point, right?
yep, yep.
Okay.
There's a lot that needs to be fixed down there. I mean, I know the guys are part-time right now, but um, to, to not put labels on the totes, I don't understand that. I don't, that's basic.
It's trickle down effect, in my opinion. I'm sure, like people, at the end of the day, we're all adults and we have good intuition and can sense certain things. They can't. They probably are the least communicated to outside of some
Mhm.
of the shareholders. So they're probably just down there, just
Yeah.
you
And then,
know.
their communication also, like I'll find out from the customer that the product never arrived. And then I communicate with the guys there and they say, oh, yeah, we got a notification from UPS, but we didn't know what it was for. Well, find out.
that-
Why am I finding out for you? You're in charge of this. And so I don't feel like there's been accountability applied to the behavior there. And
I'm gonna address that
yeah,
in a kind way, like I've been addressing everything else.
yeah.
I think we need to have basic inventory. Like how many totes do we have? I know that there's a bill that needs to be paid for $11,000 worth of totes. Have we properly bought those totes in? Are they ready to like? We need to have a basic SOP checklist where um, they're held accountable. Did you do this? Did you do that? Like, and we could develop that in very short. It doesn't take a long time. Like, I'll be able to gather that data while I'm there, and by the time I leave, there'll be an operating procedure of how to open up. I mean, when I was working for a cell phone company when I was 18 years old, like we had beginning of the day, end of the day. Like, this is the things that you need to go through when you're opening up the store. Like, it's not that difficult. This is stuff that teenagers can do. So
Yeah,
we just gotta,
I agree that the leadership has been lacking.
yeah.
they need a little more guidance. Um,
What else? Tell me something else.
hard to be put on the spot this way.
Yeah.
I should probably look in my notebook and see what crazy stuff has come my
Or
way.
the things that get in your way, like you shouldn't be if you should be if you have a client that you're talking to and at the end of that call it's okay, they need to order or they need to be sent something. That should be a click of a button. An order
Agreed.
they should get a work order. They process the work order, mark it complete, and then ship it out. It's like
Yeah.
it's I can help build out that process also.
Yeah, and some of it's just it's paperwork with the people I talk to as well. Like they're like, I need this, I need that, I need your Omri cert, I need your and I can get Maria Paula to help me with some of that stuff, but it's you know it's
Logistics.
yeah, it's logistics. It's the and Zach the plant, he's tried to learn logistics, but that's not who he is. This
Hmm.
you know, learning how to ship product to Brazil or Japan or Europe or something like that. Um, and what I find is, and I'll need to go in 15 minutes, but what I find is that they they give up too early. It's like, oh, this didn't work, so I don't know what else to do, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, and then I have to push or give ideas. And
Hmm.
I'm a natural problem solver. That's what engineers are trained to do. So that's been my role a lot of times in the company. I used to always joke that when I was uh, any business I was working in, even at Martech, I was the one they called on when the toilet broke because I knew how to fix it.
Yeah.
And I really did because I was a mechanical engineer and I would go fix it. But that's been the nature of the game. So I'm sure I can come up with some stuff that some of the stuff you talked about, just systems and processes are helpful. I feel like, right now, from that perspective, it just doesn't seem crucial. Finding a way for the company to survive seems crucial.
Hmm.
And, to get the sales like you're talking about so that we can pay our bills. I'm a big believer in trying to, if there are ways to make that happen again, that would, that's the top priority. Um, we're in crisis mode and we've been in crisis mode for years. I
Yeah,
mean,
I want to get out of that. I mean, the thing is, if we could just get if we can cover our, I was running some numbers, and I'm like, if we could just consistently have between 60 and $80,000 a month in sales, like that helps a lot.
oh yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and then we don't have to have conversations about paying proper salaries. We don't have to have conversations about not putting money into marketing. We could find the talent that we need to help, if it's a logistician or if it's a sales director role, I honestly think I'll be able to help you build out the sales director role with several conversations that we have. I think I can take that on. Um, and like the one thing I said you had to go, like I was trying to understand, like it seems like where you best thrive is like having if you had more prospects on your calendar to talk to
Hmm.
from a commercial space. So like if we can have a call set up it could just be a 30-minute call where I understand what your ideal client profile looks like for your prospect so I can go backwards and figure out how to get those people on your calendar.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, that will help. And we understand like it's very straightforward. Like we can't and we shouldn't hold you responsible for sales. And in conversations I've had, it's like when we asked about sales, Nadal and I were told like, "Oh, that's Angela's thing." It's like, no, it's not. And so we're over here like, if she ain't selling nothing, then we need to get rid of her. It's like that's not what she's doing. She's business development. Like,
Yeah, I was trying to sell stuff, but it wasn't working. So I will take responsibility for that. But only the
I don't
amount.
think you should. I think if your role is business development, your role is business development. Sales, the
Well, when I
sales.
when I came in, the thought process was that I would manage the sales. Now, when I came in and saw how we were selling and what we were selling, and that had to change it,
Yeah.
and then we backed it up to where we really didn't have a product defined. It
Mhm.
wasn't, there was no definition around it. So you had to go, and still to this day, I'm not 100% convinced that we're making the same thing day to day. We
Mm.
don't know. We have now the information in order to test that, but we don't have the money to do the testing. So,
So we're not, that goes back to logistics and Q&A. We don't know if we're consistently making the same product to sell to. Mm. That's very important.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And the reason is because we didn't know what the product was. So, how do you measure whether or not it's the same day to day if you don't know what's in it? So, we had to go back to the beginning. This is what I'm saying. We had to create all of this information. Now we have the information where we could do a test to test batch. And you don't have to do every batch, but you do, you set
QA,
up,
just basic QA.
yeah, you set it up so that, particularly in our situation, because you're growing algae outside, Mother Nature does its thing. And yes, it's in a controlled environment, but it's not controlled by temperature or by amount of light. So those two variables can change everything you're doing with the algae.
Hmm.
And so to me, what needs to happen is to set up that we test at degree, differences in temperature, test what we got, and differences in sunlight, winter and summer. And you know what? This could make a new product for us. That would be amazing. We could have a
Hmm.
summer blend that works well in hot times and a winter blend that works well in cool times, and have different products. These are the things that I dream about as, a strategy going forward for creating a bigger business. Going with this one product we have farm to farm and trying to sell it, it's going to be, maybe we can get to $1 million a year. It'll be tough slug to get there, but we're not going to get to $100 million a year with one product driving up farm drives.
Yeah,
So, you
you're
know,
right.
these that's where I talk about the growth plan. How are we going to, and that's where these B2B relationships, and that we had to push into that sooner rather than later because we couldn't afford salespeople. That's just
Gotcha.
the way it is. Um, because I'm cheap. I can sit here in my home office and dial for dollars.
Hmm.
That doesn't work with farmers.
So I know you said you have to go in a
Yeah,
couple of minutes.
yeah.
So I want to make sure that you feel that I've answered your questions because I know they were very specific. I know certain things that uh, you had asked about growth plan. That's going to be I can schedule a call with you and go over what I think is the growth plan, but please just understand, as you know, that like I'm still uncovering things, and so it's like
No,
what
I
I
know.
might think,
We.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm here to support the B2B stuff that you're doing.
Okay.
We don't need it to go. It's not like, hey, we don't need B2B anymore. We're just gonna go up the road talking to farmers. Like that's not gonna work. This is specific to getting us to a place to pay bills so that we can
I
hire
understand.
someone to handle with logistics, hire someone to handle some testing, pay you what you're worth. Um,
And I
so I
respect
want to,
that and
yeah,
believe that's, a good, it's
yeah,
a good first step.
yeah. So that's my first step. Um, I I know that I've said this to everyone. I don't know if I said it as blunt to you. I don't feel comfortable with Canada. I don't feel comfortable with Japan.
Mhm.
I think they're bad ideas. I think that they're gonna hurt us in the long run. I'd like to get the support from our staff. I don't. I know that I'm not going to get it from everyone on our staff because but I just don't see us getting a return on investment from what we're doing in Japan right now. Wahapta, he's a cool guy, good idea, good plan. He just doesn't have any money.
Yeah,
And
and I worry about the going public. I mean, I was an officer of a public company. It ain't fun.
Yeah.
So and not that I was
We
the,
don't want anybody doing due diligence on us right now.
oh boy, holy moly. I mean,
No, we don't want that.
and the quarterly responsibilities, and it's just awful. It's an
Yeah.
awful thing. And Martech always wanted to buy itself back or only sell a piece and keep the rest to run a new business type of thing, because we all
Mhm.
loved building the business. We didn't really like running it, all of us, for the
Yeah.
most part. So, but yeah, yeah. So I think that the Canada thing, I'm highly skeptical. He seems he is truly an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. The Japanese thing, I don't know how to unwind that, and that's not my problem. But I don't know how to back out of what's been done there. Um, and
We don't mind taking a stab at it. I just think that
uh,
um I have no I don't need to blame anyone. It's like, hey, look, the bottom line is there's new management. We've had, and we can come up with a strategy together that is the move forward way, with what is comfortable to us. But it just doesn't make sense. It's super risky. I feel like we pay this hundred and we get this money. We won't see any money from them because if they didn't have the money to pay us, why did they? If they had the money to pay us, they would have paid us. This
yeah,
deal is super sketchy. It doesn't make sense. We had a GTV Japan before. What, you know what I mean? Like, I think the girl's name was Mino or Miho.
anyhow, yeah, she was
Yeah,
terrible. Oh,
yeah.
God.
And so,
And this is where, um, if I hadn't have talked to Sanyo Chemical, Nippon Kayaku, all these businesses, I Taka's judgment's not very good. He's just always positive, positive, positive. Um, but I've talked to these companies, and I think they're real opportunities. Does do we have to have a facility in Japan to make them work? I don't think so, but I don't know the answer to that question. So um, I
I
think
don't think
that,
that's smart. I mean, and some of those companies do business outside of Japan. It's
right.
it's very culturally, I can say this, it's part of the Asian culture to take technology and reverse engineer what
Yeah.
we have developed. And I mean, the Japanese and the Koreans do it to each other all the time.
Yeah.
And then now the Chinese doing it to everyone. And it's nothing against them. It's just even our version one is a hodgepodge of different technologies put together. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about that. And so with that statement, um, it's like, okay, so what do we do with? I just think Japan needs to be put on hold in general. We see what it costs us per month. Um, and I mean, I'm not saying that for you to say to go to tell Taka like my call to him is going to be to can him because that's not there's no decision made. But I just don't see that we are in a place to do. We need to get home first, fixed first.
I understand that.
And then like it's just to go and pay $12,000 to have. I haven't talked to SmartFlow yet. That's another conversation I need to have this week because even the licensing agreement. Have you ever read the licensing agreement? I mean
A, a
yeah.
long time ago, but
Yeah, when you look at it with fresh eyes, it looks like we paid SmartFlow $25,000 to get to buy their IP, but
mm,
then any IP that we develop together on the mechanical side might be theirs. It's just a whole mess.
oh, I
And
mean, I,
so,
I don't think I've read that like that agreement, but
yeah.
I don't know. I will tell you that as an engineer and talking engineer to engineer at SmartFlow, those are smart people. They are
Oh
good
yeah, I've heard
people,
good nothing but good things about them. I
and
just don't.
I think they will build quality equipment for whoever,
Mhm.
whether it's us or somebody else. They're smart. They actually also have a product formulation side of them that they're the ones I think could help us develop a dry powder.
Mhm.
They
Yeah,
have
because they know how
technology,
to. Yeah.
they have spray dryers, they have freeze dryers. I think that they can help us develop a dry powder product. I've been talking to them about it.
Mhm.
So
Yes, I just think that like for our first smart flow powered system,
Yeah.
um, maybe that should be here so we can see what it does versus what our version one does. I don't necessarily think it's smart to send.
I think what would be a wonderful thing is to tear the shit out that's in there from Korea because it's shit. It's crap. It was so poorly built and so cheaply done, and put up that system that we had built. It's plenty big enough to service customers. You know, it's, but again, the money.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
was
that might have to happen if we're forced to leave because we're not paying what the rent's supposed to be.
right, and we need to go somewhere else, and
Yeah.
you know,
So
and
that makes perfect sense.
that was one of the things we always talked about was moving it up here somewhere closer to, the staff. Um,
Yeah.
the man.
So do you know that we were supposed to be, when I was involved, we were supposed to be in Baltimore?
Oh, really? Well, I know they had at the IMET Center downtown in the harbor. They had the office there.
Yeah, we did. We set up the office there,
Yeah,
and then I had been pushing for us to have the facility, our first demo facility in Baltimore because it's Eastern Shore for the
yeah,
chickens,
yeah,
easy for staff. So we'll see. I mean, technically, we have, if my math is mathing correctly, oh, you got to go. But
yeah,
we have like four systems. We have the big one, we have the Smart Flow one, we have the red mini ones that we built the demo for Sweet Life, and then we have the 2.5-ton facility from Sweet Life. So we have flexibility if we can get our stuff together.
yeah, yeah.
So, well,
Oh,
I know I took too much of your time. If you have you leave on Friday, right?
yeah,
Okay. Do you have any availability tomorrow or Wednesday to maybe do like a 60-minute session?
yeah, yeah. Tomorrow afternoon could. Oh, no, no, no. We have closing. We're selling a property tomorrow. So I mean, it's at 2 o'clock. It's not going to take
Mhm.
long, but just because the day's chopped up, Wednesday
Mhm.
would be better.
Okay. Let me look at
Wednesday.
my schedule before you book on my calendar because I know I have some stuff that I have to accept. I just been on the phone, so I haven't accepted it. But Wednesday, I'll make sure that I'm in front of the computer. And
Okay.
yeah, so
I'll take
regarding
a look at
Japan,
times and look at my
yeah.
schedule and
So
see.
those are my thoughts on Japan. I'm hoping
Okay.
to get your blessings on that, and I think we're aligned with Canada.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm here to support and keep things moving. Hopefully I'll get some time to talk to Maria today or tomorrow, and to give
Good.
you some stuff on Wednesday.
Okay. Very good, Ralph.
Hello? Did
Are
my
you
internet
there?
go out again?
Uh-oh. You're frozen now.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
You're back.
So yeah, I look forward to talking to you on Wednesday, and
Okay.
we'll just keep things moving forward.
Okay.
I
Thank
hope I answered some of your questions throughout our long
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully on Wednesday, I would want to talk to you about, because I am going to see my buddy who invested 100,000 on Saturday and spend some time with him. I'd like to talk about communication for shareholders.
Change. Yeah, so that's what my call with Nathaniel is going to be. He booked me for 4:30, so we're going to
Okay.
talk and work all that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.